and thanks for tuning into the Daily Space Weather, folks. I am your host, Dan, aka smAsho Mash. Today we're talking eclipses at the SDO, censorship versus free speech, what a surprise, forum, the mission, and the support thereof. First, let's take a look at the sun in 171 angstroms to see the moon getting in between the SDO and the sun. And this is a 48-hour video in 171 angstroms. One of the ionized states of iron, folks. Pretty low levels of solar activity today. And let's look at some more images. But first, let's talk about the mission. And the reason that these videos exist in the first place is to connect and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach. And while that has worked in some manner, it has also failed due to the censorship of fraudsters like Alphabet Corporation. Alphabet Corporation, parent company of Google and YouTube and countless other entities that it purchased. The rest of the mission is to assist, study, and report the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics, to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space weather and Earth effects, to demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, to assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon and not studying a bunch of nonsense. And we're doing that to optimize value and reduce risk and liability and save lives and resources and adapt no matter what the adversity is. And lastly, to do real science and not to be ossified in our beliefs, to treat those who are with love, respect, and inclusion to the scientific discussion. Now, the SDO flies in a figure-8 pattern over the Central Pacific Ocean and White Sands Air Force Base. That's the pattern the SDO flies in, and this allows it to have a constant view of the sun. That's why it's in that location. And this is how it's able to show the moon, like it's doing here in the 304 angstroms view. So let's play that video also. A bunch of filaments there, one in the northeast, causing people to go, "Oh my God!" And those filaments are pretty big in that they're larger than the Earth. If you've got a silly comment about that, please type it in the comments section. Next, we're going to look at 171 angstroms versus the magnetic fields, and we're just going to fade that to the fields. And you can see no sunspots, no kind of significant magnetic organization going on. Maybe one area right down here where we could see a sunspot in the process of forming, where we see a little brightness and a little bit of North Pole-oriented polarity there, I believe it is. And we've got some Helio Viewer movies here that we made this morning. This one of the very large South Pole coronal hole. And there's that. Let me get my face off the screen. And we'll let that play through a second time for you here. And that was a 93 angstroms view. Here's a 304 angstroms view of the North Pole region. We did document a crown prominence yesterday up in that area. And you can see that filament hanging out there. Suspended plasma, which is suspended by a magnetic field as the plasma orients to the fields. Also a little bit of a filament eruption up in this area. You can see that filament kind of coming down in this direction. I'll let that play through so you can see that again, right in this area. See that filament? Looks like it dropped back down onto the chromosphere. What say you? And let's look at some more data here. KP index is at 1, having been at 0 for a significant portion of the past 24 hours. 10.7 centimeter radial flux has come back up to 71. That's a welcome sign during solar minimum, as we like to see another solar cycle. Now, we sent an email to the Neil Gorell Swift Observatory. I wanted to share it with the viewers. Hi, astronomers. I'm in the process of starting a nonprofit organization and I need your help. Could you help me find somebody interested in an in-depth study of Cygnus X3 massive X-ray binary? As a likely consistent cosmic ray point source, it is currently just about to return to an active state from its quiescent state, and we're looking to publish a paper or two about Deneb, really Cygnus X3. Please let us know if you know of a couple radio astronomers, so hopefully we'll get a response on that. And I have sent an email before to Amy Lynn. Thanks for responding so quickly, Amy, about a lack of data one day on the transient data. And she got back to me within 24 hours. So fantastic job, Amy. And thanks for keeping up the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory. Let's get a little closer to home. Here's some solar X-ray flux, and it's quite flatlined. Next, we're going to look at the real-time solar wind, and we see a small ramp up here in the solar wind density, now up to 5.22 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed fairly flat over the past 12 hours here at 348 kilometers a second. There's the data from ACE, complete with all data. Next, we'll look at the magnetosphere movies, and the magnetosphere is looking pretty weak. No surprise there with such a diffuse coronal hole. Such a diffuse solar wind. And this is 4 hours of data courtesy of University of Michigan Geospace Model V1.5, which is based on the space weather modeling framework. And if you want to read about it, we've got links in the description. Just click on that, come down here, click on details, click on space weather modeling framework, and you can see how this model is derived. Not from lies, nonsense, and fraud on the internet, but from lots and lots and lots of ground-based, space-based instruments, everything from the electron flux to ground-based magnetometers to solar wind data is included in the space weather modeling framework. Here are the ground geospace magnetic perturbations, and nothing too exciting happening there as far as I can tell. Let's look at some more data. That's 4 hours also, by the way. Please support the channel however you may, as we've got a lot of things to do this year and we need a lot more funding to do so. So consider sending us some cash on PayPal, perhaps, or perhaps become a patron. Every little bit counts, whether you're at the $1 level or the $9.99 a month level. Or perhaps you've joined at the $3 level on Subscribestar, our latest foray into crowdfunding. So please consider funding us in any way that you can. Also, consider checking out bitchute.com/smashomash, as there will be exclusive content there all about all kinds of things, like about the fact that Google is a zombie corp. Also, check us out on Twitch. When we have to do something immediately, we tend to live stream here, as YouTube's live streaming platform just sucks. Let's get back to data. There is the 30-minute aurora forecast, and we're not expecting to see very many auroras. GOES magnetometer has smoothed out a little bit here over the past 24, but it's going to go back into a spiky mode here, and we'll show you why in a minute. You can see the divergence of the GOES 16 and GOES 14 data here, shown in red and blue respectively, and it's going to continue to be sawtoothed here as we see some things going on in this region, as that portion of the sun's output is kind of moving into the Earth-facing zone there. So over the next 48 hours, we're going to continue to see spikiness on that GOES magnetometer data as a result of magnetic field force lines. And let's show you this is the line of sight field plot, which shows you the south solar polar field in red, north solar polar field in green, and the B field, which is indeed the interplanetary magnetic field, the one you live on, in blue. And the South Pole coronal hole area is looking extremely powerful. And it's having lots of effects on that B field, and that's something to keep an eye on throughout the day. Electron flux has dipped down a little bit here, just flirting with alert levels the past 2 days. So there are the greater than 2 mega electron volt electrons, and there is the greater than or equal to 2 mega electron volts electron flux. And I expect this to not get back into warning areas today. And let's just rock the CTIPE, the total electron content. And it's looking a little bit more relaxed there. GPS errors even around the equator at noon should be a little less than yesterday. Next we'll look at the ionosphere, and this is 6 hours of data. We try to look at it every day, thanks to the Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. Ionosphere is looking pretty normal here. And let's bring up the latest image. That one coming in at 8:45 UT. Pretty normal. Nothing to write home about there. Let's talk about a video that we just put up on YouTube and got demonetized practically instantaneously. Here's a teaser. Go view it, and we'll see if it gets remonetized. Personally, I don't really care, as this is just a teaser to get people to go watch Twitch and BitChute videos where we don't get censored. Where I say, imagine yourself viewing a fire. Then imagine that fire in a dumpster. Then imagine that dumpster on a moving train. Then imagine that moving train crashing. And that, my friends, is the DNC. Have you been watching the train wreck that is the DNC, the dumpster fire train wreck? How about this guy, Rolling Stone? Rolling Stone, a communist rag, has an honest conversation with a real progressive who supports Michael Bloomberg. We didn't leave links to the article, but it's on the homepage at Rolling Stone Socialism Inc. magazine. Are you prepared for the possibility of a Democratic candidate winning the presidency? Have you sent $27 to this charlatan, Bernie Sanders, who back in 2016 was so excited about how the average contribution to his campaign was $27. Did you watch them arguing on stage last night and looking like complete dolts? Yeah. Here's an article from Barron's, How to Prepare Your Portfolio for a Bernie Sanders Presidency. I would say, if you're rich, make sure you flee the country with all of your capital before Bernie tries to confiscate it from you. As if I were a billionaire, I would certainly get the hell out of the U.S. if Bernie had any hope of getting elected. We've updated smashomash.com/forum, which now has well over 6 pages of information about virus. If you want to read more about virus, otherwise known as COVID-19, which I guess I'm allowed to say. Apparently some cases in Brazil now. 10 deaths in Italy as cases there spiked to 322. Second case confirmed in Germany. Not particularly good news here. However, I would also note something that Terrence has been saying from day one. That's one of our contributors. One of our associate producers, indeed. That this virus appears to be less deadly than the regular old everyday run-of-the-mill yearly flu. And some U.S. soldiers have contracted the virus and been confirmed as well in South Korea. No big surprise there. Current cases confirmed over 81,000. Total deaths, 2,762. Here's the chart, and you can see this unfortunate yellow line down here at the bottom, which is cases besides ones in China, rising a little bit here, and China leveling off a little bit. So those are both good signs. Keep in mind, this remains underreported, as when you quarantine people, it's impossible to confirm whether or not they have the virus. Let's look at pressure maps on windy.com. We're going to let that advance about 24 hours, as we do most days. And there's where we anticipate pressure zones to be at about 1500 Universal Time tomorrow. Next, we'll take a look at the past 24 hours of earthquake activity. Nothing over a 6 magnitude quake. We're basically still in a straight up earthquake drought, folks. Here's an extremely deep quake at the Philippines. It's a 4.4 magnitude at 538 kilometers below the surface, folks. That is a legit deep quake. Heads up areas north of Australia for a large quake at the surface, as there have been a massive number of deep quakes around places like Indonesia, Philippines, Papua New Guinea, etc. Again, no quakes over 6 magnitude the past 24. There has been an uptick in Turkey near the Iranian border. Here's a deep quake at Bolivia that's nearly 200 kilometers and a 4.5 magnitude. There's another deep quake in western South America. Still my favorite spot to end this earthquake drought with a large quake. Western South America. I would say these two areas are the top choice for a large earthquake. And let's move on to the volcano rundown, which includes Mount Aso. It looks like a downtick in volcanic activity, folks. Mount Aso, 5,000 foot ash plume there. Sakurajima, flight level 7,000 there. Popocatépetl, volcanic ash not seen in webcam. Please do not attempt to pole vault the caldera. Sabancaya exploding, 20,000 foot ash plume there. Revenador exploding, 16,000 foot ash plume there. Sporadic puffs from Sabancaya are an indication not to attempt to hang glide over the caldera down in Peru at Sabancaya. Next, we'll look at lightning, and here's the current lightning strike situation, courtesy lightningmaps.org. Next time you hear thunder, you know the routine. And here's a value-added service for you, folks. It's the U.S. Doppler radar map. And it's getting a little colder here in Pennsylvania, as it's been a very disappointing winter with hardly any snow and very warm temperatures. So I'm expecting another late spring. And if you didn't hear it here before, I'm forecasting 10 inches of snow on the ground at some point in April. It might fall on the last day of March, but I say it's going to happen anyway. And let's move on to look at the jet streams. Here are the eastern jets. We've got the map centered on India there. And we'll move it around to look at the western jets before we look at the water vapor maps. And here's the water vapor map over Africa and Europe. Here's a water vapor map over the US. And we're going to look at the area over central Pennsylvania as we have a convergence. And being a guy who's interested in knowing what's going on above my head, there is the moist air, dry air lines, and there are a few of them. So if you're flying north to south or south to north, you're going to see some turbulence headed down the east coast today, especially when you transition from moist air to dry air, as your plane has more lift when it encounters that air, and would need to do something like pitch down or reduce throttle when it hits that in order to maintain its flight trim. And let's move on to thank the SMASH team for bonus features. Hey, thanks SMASH team. You people are part of the reason why we make these videos. Bonus feature number 1, we're looking at the sun here in the intensitygram to cite the fact that there are 0 sunspots. Next, we're going to look at magnetogram to cite the exact same thing. No sunspots. Pretty low levels of activity, folks. only one spot to really keep an eye on, and when I say eye on, the pun is intentional. It's that area of magnetic organization right there. If a sunspot's going to form today, that's likely where it'll be. And we're going to tune in to one bonus feature. And today's final bonus feature is the 94 angstroms view, and that's 48 hours of solar activity right there. Thanks again for tuning in, SMASH team, friends, foes, etc. Check the links below the description. Please support the channel if possible, and help us complete our SMASho mission for the year 2020, which is vast. And we're only releasing little bits of our plans at a time, as there's too much stuff to do, and not enough time or money to do it yet. So, remember, stare at the sun, don't drink, and if you drink, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back, and that atherosclerosis absent from your arteries.